right, so we got that fitted up. You can see we put the straight edge on it, and it looks beautiful. So you're not going to get much better than that on a fiberglass part without remaking some of the edge. So all that's nice and straight all the way down. You got a little bit of a gap again right there, but I mean it's going to have some play in it. You just want to get it for the most part where when somebody looks down the side of the car, it looks good, you know, or when you're looking down the side of the car like this, it looks good. So as you can tell right here, they just had way too much material on it when they built this. You don't want to go much lower than this because then you start getting into the structure. You can start to see some pinholes in the fiberglass from where they put it all together, but we're not too deep in there. I mean, we'll go back over all this with primer. And then of course this gets primer. So what this gets built out with primer, this also gets built out with primer. So we should stay nice and straight. But you can't really complain about that. For a fiberglass part, that is a really good fit. The only other thing that we'll have to do is make sure our body lines line up. That's very important to me, is to make sure that the body lines line up. We're not trying to have nothing that looks like it was just some slap together race car. So this side, that looks really good. No big complaints on this side. This door could come out a little because we have, it's hard to see, you got the gap right there. So you have a little bit of gap. So I'm probably gonna come over here and work this door down just a little bit more also. But all of this down here is really, I mean, you can't, there's no gap there on the face. So the gap comes back again up top. And all it is they just put way too much out there. So I'm gonna grind some more on this. There's that gap. You see it like that. So door's out a little bit. So we're gonna grind a little bit more on this side too. All right, so as you can see, we grind a little bit more on that door. Now on this door, we can't go, let me get the straight edge. Can't go too much lower because here comes the carbon fiber. Okay, so we definitely don't want to get much lower than that at all. Mike, when he does this edge, he will skim this with a thin coat of like gel coat. So we just don't want to get much lower than that. And let's actually go ahead and set the Zeus before we check this, just to make sure that it's 100%, just like this Zeus on this side. Which, I mean, that goes in easy, so that's not, it's not gonna push it out or anything. But if it sucks it down any, if your Zeus is tight and it sucks it down any, it's gonna bulge out the fiberglass just a touch. So if we look at that now, you can barely see a gap. So we probably took away half of what we had. But we can't go no lower because we're starting to get into carbon. So what we're gonna do on this one is, all I wanted to do this morning before I start prepping this thing for paint is I wanted to rough fit these right here. So now that I have these rough fitted, and on this one you can actually see how the body line is good because it's like the primer and the black stuff is almost like a guide coat. Anyways, we just want to rough fit these. We'll take the doors off, take the front end off, and when we paint, after we paint the car, Mike has to weld, repair the hinge, upper hinge on this door, and when we go put it back together, we'll probably drill the hinge out possibly a little bit to maybe suck the door in just a touch. So when we go to do our final fitment back on there, then we'll start adjusting our hinges really precise. So if you can, when you're roughing in the car, if you can get your rough end lines right, then when it's time to put it back together, you got to make 1/16 of an inch adjustments often, and you can easily get that normally with the hinge, even if you have to drill the holes out a little so you have a little more play. But I think that's going to be it. I think we're going to go ahead and pull the doors, pull the front end off. No, I do got to fit the hood real fast. I got to fit the hood. But then we'll get all this stuff off, and we'll be moving on to washing this thing and prepping for paint. Alright, so all we've done is start out. So your hood on this side, I've laid a piece of tape. Let me show you on this side, it's a little easier. I laid a piece of tape on the edge of my fender so that my eyes can just see this easier. So that now I have two bright pieces of yellow tape so my eyes can see that my gap looks the same. So this is actually part of the hood right here that we want to cut off. But when you're looking at it like this, you can look and kind of eyeball your gap. That's what you want. I'm happy with all this gap up here. So by the time you trim that hood, hopefully that side will look good. Like I said, this side took a hit, but being all of these Zeuses they fit in smooth and you don't really have to fight with them, and on that side we decided that we don't want to really try to shift the front end around and bend brackets and mess with the front end, because then if anything you move, if you change one thing, it's going to affect another thing. So instead of trying to move all this and then fighting with Zeus not lining up and everything, we decided that we were just going to go ahead and trim the hood to fit like I had originally kind of wanted to do. So all I did was this hood's actually overlapping the body almost. So what I've done is just put a line down pretty much where my edge of my fender is, and then put this down. I'm gonna take the hood off and I'm gonna trim just a little bit right here off, and I'm gonna put it back on, and then that should give me a better understanding of where the edge is at, because right now I can't see the edge of the fender because of the edge of the hood is actually pretty much over the edge of the fender. So I just need to rip a little bit off, but use your tape as a straight edge, and then that way you can see gaps. Alright, so we got our hood put back on. Eddie is making a ton of noise in the paint booth trying to get one sprayed out, so just bear with us. We got our hood put back on, and what I did this time was, before I sat the hood on, I actually went and put yellow tape down on the Zeus fastener rail. That way you can really see the line on camera, and so I can see it in person. So you can see we got a gap all the way down. This is high because he does not have the Zeus thing in it right now, and the Zeus rail actually does go that way just a little bit. But overall, I mean, you can see you got a gap. It looks good. The hood is not touching the fender, and you know it's not touching because you can see the yellow tape that's underneath the hood on top of the Zeus rail. Same on this side. This is a little tighter up front because of the accident, how it was all pushed this way. But you can see the yellow tape all the way down, so we don't have no contact between the hood and the fender. And what I'll probably do is, once the Zeus rail's off, I'll probably also sand a little bit on the edge of this fender just to open that up just 1/16. Like I said, when we've been working with this stuff, we're talking 1/16 on a lot of this stuff. But that's the fitment on the hood, so I feel good about that. I went ahead and rounded all your edges. It's important to have round edges like this, not square edges. Factory parts from the factory do not come with square edges. They come with round edges normally. Some edges of trunk lids or the edge of your hood up top up there sometimes can be pointed, but overall most edges when you buy stuff from the factory is round. This one needs to be rounded a little bit more. So we don't like square edges. This line is off right here. I do need to mark this and trim this because you can see the edge of your grill goes right there, and then the edge of your hood is right here. So that is incorrect. It needs to be trimmed, and this side looks good. See how that looks? It looks good. So we need to go ahead and match that side, or at least draw it out with a Sharpie so I know to clearance it a little bit. Let's see here. The tops look good. We've got a nice good gap in here. That way none of that's touching or rubbing. And like I said, we will be putting edge protector on this. And I might actually get him to put a 90-degree Zeus fastener right here to hold this up just a little bit. Because right now all the weight, let me see if you can see it reflecting. You see, okay, see that carbon right there? So all the weight is hammering on that right there. So we're definitely going to have to put a Zeus, a 90-degree Zeus right there probably. This side, same with this side, we got a nice gap. It looks good, but you also have where that corner is touching. And this side, don't flex that back because it's I'm guessing the side's a little stronger than that side. That side's probably took a beating over the past years. And let's see here, yeah, it's just not quite as strong. So it needs to be either clearance or build up, or like I said, a 90-degree Zeus fastener to pick this up will help some. But this hood is humped up, you see right there, so we do still want to address that. But once you get the Zeus fastener in, that will help pull that down some. So, and we're just trying to make it as close as we can to where your gaps look good. It's not perfect, it is a race car, I get that, but we can still try our best to at least make it, look good. We don't have to get obsessed about, a gap being too big or a gap being too tight, or something like that. We just give it your best shot and at least make your stuff look good. That way your end product will look good. So there you go. We're gonna probably now, I'm gonna check over everything, make sure there's nothing else I need to clearance, and then it might be time to start taking this thing back apart, doors, front end, and everything, and getting this thing washed. All right, you can see from that time lapse we were just fitting the taillights in because we did have to do some hammering to the panels. You remember when we straightened these panels in that video? We didn't have taillights to fit that night when I straightened them, so I had to fit them today. Randy dropped them off yesterday, so I had to go ahead and fit them today before paint. That way you ain't gonna worry about chipping no paint. They look pretty good. They're not perfect, but you do get a drag wing that covers a lot of the sides. But they do look really acceptable for a race car. So of course the right way to do it, as we have discussed this on this channel with a couple people in the comments, would have been to replace both quarters needed to be replaced and the whole taillight panel needed to be replaced. But with it being a race car, it's just not always the smartest thing to do, I guess you could say. But that's where we're at. We're gonna finish prepping. Got a little bit more block right here, getting these doors off. I did skim the front out in some dolphin glaze, so I'm about to skimmed all this out, skimmed these out. About to sand all this off real fast and then get the doors off, and we're still moving forward with trying to prep it for paint. All right, so we got the primer laid back from where we touched up our brackets, got all that laid back out, and went ahead and I had a little bit of extra in the gun. I went ahead and shot the tubes. I weren't going to originally shoot these tubes because it's just tube chassis work and it all gets covered up anyway. But I ran out a little bit right there, but I was just burning up scrap. But still, it'll block out, it'll look good. Like I said, we weren't even going to do it anyway. We were just going to roll right over it. But we had some burned up, so we got all them filled in. I'm going to seam seal this to a seam sealer. You don't want to put filler in this because it's going to move and vibrate. So you got your welds here, and then this is still going to have a tiny, tiny bit of movement. So they make a product called seam sealer. That's what's put between two pieces of metal when a car's put together. We're just going to seam seal out these edges. Basically, if you don't know what seam sealer is, it's just like caulking that you would know of to using a house, but you don't want to use house caulking on a car due to multiple reasons that we're not going to get into tonight. But you can use seam sealer, and you can actually paint over top of seam sealer. So you've seen earlier we got the tail lights fitted in. It is now Wednesday night. It's probably climbing up right on 7 o'clock. I came on back into it, went home, ate, and then come back to work again. So we fit the taillights earlier, got them in. My goal for tonight, my main goal, is to have this car washed, finish scuffing it out, and inside the paint booth, dripping for paint tomorrow. So I do need to vacuum and clean the booth up a little and get the heat rolling in here, dry out the carpets where my guys decided to wash cars inside the bay earlier, which is cool with me, but a little bit too much water went that way and soaked the carpet. But anyways, we could possibly paint it tonight. I have been known to work till 3 a.m. if you haven't learned that by now, but I don't want to rush things. So it depends on how I feel about the overall project. It depends on how I feel about if I'm rushing it or if I'm comfortable with the stage I'm in, whether I hit this thing with paint tonight or not. Not really worried about anything else. I just don't want to rush anything and it cost myself more work later. So I do want to get it done. If I don't get it done tonight, I'm getting it done tomorrow, which is Thursday, because Friday, which is Christmas Eve, I plan to have this cat in the bag painted, and all I'll have to work after my Christmas break is all of the doors, the front end, the hood, and all that. But at least that if I can have this thing rolling clean and Randy's back wheels back on it, we can take the engine cradle on the front end and just put it in there with just 1 or 2 bolts, all just barely enough to roll it out of here. And then whenever he makes the call to me that it's ready to go to wiring, we can take it out of here and load it in his trailer. But until then, we can put in a couple of hours here and there putting stuff back together, assembly, windows on the back, stuff like that. But we got to get the paint laid first. The paint on the shell is the big holdup because you can't move forward with anything else on the shell. But the big holdup is the car. This is where all the magic happens. So if we can just get a roller back, then the stress comes off of me, and I can enter into these pieces stress-free and take my time during the work week, and I don't have to pull no more late hours on them pieces. So this has got to go. This has got to get done. Got to get done by Thursday night for sure. That way I can have my Christmas break and I can sit back and relax, and knowing that that's done and I'm not holding anybody up, and I can get back on messing with my car a little and then work on the other panels during the week. So it's like 90 degrees in here right now. That little baby puts out some heat. She's dry. So let's go over it. But I mean, all of this stuff's clean in here now. We don't have no dirt, no dust, no grime. Everything is nice and clean. All of the window tracks are blasted out. I did go back and cut a lot of this stuff out with a razor blade. So all that stuff's nice and clean. The little bit that you see right in here, it's because I did not focus on really getting this good. You know, I scotch brighted all this, but I don't want to flood. You know, our headliner's dry. I mean, there's not. It didn't even get wet. Like, it didn't get nothing on it. Like, you know, I don't want to flood all this stuff. You want to work smart. All you want to do is get all your paint clean, and we're gonna wipe this all down again. But you just want to get everything clean, man. This is gonna be awesome. If Randy, when he makes his first pass, you know, if you should go up to him and ask him at the racetrack if there was a bunch of dust blowing around when he made his first pass, because I feel really confident that the answer is going to be no. I have blew the inside of this thing out with a leaf blower, the air hose. You know, we pressure washed the basics of it. We didn't go crazy. This car is clean. This is going to be an awesome car. So it's completely fresh. It was already dirty from all the abuse that it's went through in its past. When we got it, it was dirty. You know, now we've kind of got it back to a neutral zone. You know, all this is back clean. It's beat up, but it's clean. You know, if he wants to go through here and touch up some of this with a rattle can or, you know, whatever, we're actually going to do the cage in a hammered black paint. He has some hammer paint, so I'll probably go over that in a video. But that's where we're at. So I think it's almost, I want to say I'm coming up on a 9 o'clock hour, 8:45-ish. I got to get to the house. So, but she's clean. She's ready for tomorrow. She's dry. There's no sense in me killing myself. I have not met up with Randy tonight. He does have the clear. We have changed plans again on the clear. We've known the color since like last Friday. Today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday. He's already changed the clear coat again. We went from a production clear, which is what you use on your everyday car. If your car gets an accident, an insurance company repairs it, it's just going to get a normal production clear. He's upped it to a high solids clear, which is basically like a show car clear, a hot rod, a restoration shop clear. So he's really putting some really nice clear coat on it. So that's a change of the plans. But I haven't met up with him and got the clear. And I just don't feel like painting this thing tonight. I want to go to sleep at a decent time, wake up in the morning. We are closed for tomorrow, Thursday. And of course, we're closed Friday, Christmas Eve, and we're closed, of course, the weekend, and actually closed all next week. We take over a week off for Christmas. But I want to wake up in the morning fresh, get a nice breakfast, come in, and tape this thing up, jam out some music, and put a good paint job on this. Try to give this thing a good shot. All I have to really stress about is the roof and the quarters. Everything else don't have to be show quality. Just got to get it covered. The front end. Let me give you a piece of advice. I know this video is probably going to end up being a lot of talking, but let me give you a piece of advice. If your front end's already black, leave it black. Randy wanted it red. That's cool. I got his back. I'll make it red. But if you noticed in the time lapse, even though the time lapse moves really fast, you should have seen that I was spending a little bit more time in this area. This is a lot to scuff. You don't realize all of the crap that has to be scuffed around all these bars, all up inside of here, all of this up in here, all of this, all these edges, all these flanges. It's a lot of angles and areas to scuff, like a ton. It sucks. It sucks really bad. So, all these tubes are 360, every single tube all the way around. They have to be scuffed down. Every nook and cranny has to be scuffed. We're not going to really worry about the bottom side of getting the rails because you'll never see it. We're just going to get all up in here. Let's see about talking him into actually painting these black to match the cage, so it'll look cool, because all this will be red, and then you'll have the tubes up in here black if we can get a brush up in there. But just leave this black. If yours is already black, or if yours is not black, you might want to just leave it black. If you he had a really nice black paint job up in there, looked like base coat, clear coat. But yours, you can just rattle can with gloss black. It's a lot easier to do that than prep this mess for base coat, clear coat, because it's a lot of work. Randy's created a show car, so that's pretty much what this is, a show race car. But this is Randy's show car pro mod. So, but this is a lot of work. So it's easier sometimes just to leave yours from the jams out or tape like right here, and just leave this area black. I mean, you can kind of see it now. So where the primer is, put your color, and then where the black is, paint it all black. And a lot of cars actually do that. A lot of cars actually trim all this out in black and then do the color of the car just right there. And they do that because all the wear and tear that all this stuff sees, it's easy to touch up. Especially if you brush this out with hammer paint to begin with. If you don't know what hammer paint is, let me see. Randy went and bought some. I'll go ahead and give you a sneak peek. Rust-Oleum makes it. So it's hammered. You can see right there in the sign where it says hammered, okay? That's what it kind of looks like right here. So it gives it that hammered powder coat look. So it's going to be really nice. And it goes on super easy. It's very durable. It stinks like all mess, but it's good stuff. It's very good stuff for the average do-it-yourselfer. So you could do all your engine bay and that stuff and use a brush on it. I've got a good amount of it on my car. I've got my whole cage done, but he's going to redo the whole inside of this. So this thing is about to be beautiful. So I wanted to get it clean at any cost. And that's what I did. She's clean. So that's where we're at. Wednesday night, Thursday, she's getting paint. Y'all stay tuned. Comment, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, because I'm not telling you what color the paint is until you see it come out the paint gun. As soon as you see it come out the paint gun, then you'll know what color she's getting.